Thank you very much. I'm Bruce Michael Bongo, and I'm the Secretary General of Kavirondo Activists Association. Now, I would want to give it a starter from the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 8, verse 18, which states that a time is coming when the people will be winning and complaining about their king, and the Lord God will not listen to them because the king is their choice. They chose their king. So what would I say on the Kenyan context? In the Kenyan context, it sounds more like a result of our own actions. What we chose in 2022, or rather say, choices have consequences. Moving forward, we all know that Rigathi Gachagua decided on Friday last week to do an appeal on the choice of the 3-judge bench of the High Court of Kenya not to cede ground and leave this case. Now, one thing that we know moving forward is that the 3 judges of the High Court of Kenya are seriously under some instruction to ensure that the stay orders that were put there by the Gachagua'S court are put aside to allow for both the swearing in and the eventual assumption of office by Professor Kithure Kindiki. Now, if that happens, it will therefore shred all this kind of a litigation that is before the court and put it into a mute order. Very much unfortunate. Now, these 3 judges, to me, they are the destroyers of the space that we have, the democratic space. They are a threat to our constitution. These judges are a threat to the legal order. They are a threat to the rule of law. They are a threat to the rules of order. They are equally a threat to the fair trial. Now, can't you think of it for once that as we are moving forward, my advice to Rigathi Gachagua is that exhaust all the means, political, religious, and also the judicial. The 3 judges must now know that what they are supposed to do or what they want to do under the influence of the executive or the powers that be is going to spur up what is called the jurisprudence in terms of using this case as a reference point globally, using the Rigathi Gachagua'S case as a point of benchmarking. It is going to set up a precedence both in our local aspect and also outside the borders of Kenya. Now, when we talk about these 3 judges being compromised, as they were clearly stated by Senior Counsel Paul Muite, you'll realize that, one, if these 3 judges are compromised the way I believe so, they are going to indict the very independence of the judiciary. Number 2, they are going to spur up a permanent dent onto the constitutional jurisprudence in Kenya. And that is something that we do not want, actually. If they do so, it means sincerely that they are just into the box like William Ruto in 2010 when he opposed this very, very constitution. And on moving forward, one thing that we have to put into fore is that Rigathi Gachagua was not given a fair hearing. The trial was not fair. He wasn't cross-examined in the Senate. Now, as we move forward, we know very well that in the current dispensation, the Constitution allows anyone who would want to go on to the higher echelons of leadership in this country, and to be specific, presidency, you have to choose your running mate. And after choosing your running mate, you go ahead now to the Kenyan populace, canvass for votes, and the Kenyan people will have their voice in the ballot to either reject you plus your running mate or elect you plus your running mate. But we do not have a situation in our constitution which allows William Ruto to canvass for his votes as the president, and when, after assuming the office, he now appoints a deputy. That is not the case. I think William Ruto is forgetting, because when we were fighting so hard to bring this new constitution, he was on the streets opposing this new constitution. And unfortunately, Kenyans, we ended up choosing such a fella to lead this country and to work in dictates of the law. And one thing that must also come out very clearly is that we cannot liken the presidency, meaning the president and his deputy, we cannot liken it to a matrimonial divorce. And all these politicians everywhere who are talking about, Rigathi Gachagua should now get out of the space because it is a toxic relationship. This is not a relationship. This is work to order. And those who are likening this to a matrimonial divorce, the politicians in the house, I think if you have a marriage which is toxic, do not bring it to the public. It is not anything related to marriage whatsoever. And one thing that you also must have to know is that as a country, we have had our highs and lows, and this is the lowest moment. We cannot go this direction and put Rigathi Gachagua aside unless we decide today to suspend the constitution. This is very abhorring, aganaptosis, and it is going to bring mayhem to our country. And my word will go directly to the Chief Justice, Martha Koome. We know that tomorrow is going to be a determiner in terms of what we have in our space as Kenyans in terms of a democratic space, respect to the rule of law and constitutionalism. You cannot swear in Kithure Kindiki before the justice system paves way. That is not allowed. We are having a wounded lion called Rigathi Gachagua, son of the Mau Mau, who has been wounded by live bullets, 11 counts, and is saying, no, I am not on the wrong. Why can't you then salvage the situation, give him a fair hearing, and choose from the evidence that is placed before you, whether to admit this or render it something that cannot be admissible in the court of law. So when we are looking at this situation, I would say that Kenya had come from that situation before. We are now in the best dispensation moving forward. And if you think anyone else would want, because we are in a situation where currently we have the impeachment billionaires. Mutuse just bought a chopper worth 200 million, and we know it. All of a sudden, from the blues, the three judges might be they are also gearing towards having their own choppers. But what you are doing now is going to affect not only Kenya, but jurisprudence across the world, because every other person is going to liken what is happening to the case of Kenya. Every other person, every other judge, every other lawyer would like to use the Kenyan case scenario. So if you want Kenya to appear like a banana republic where we have a kangaroo court, unfortunately being funded by the taxpayers, it would be very unfortunate. I think that the Chief Justice of Haiti for a long time has not had the privilege of actually swearing in someone into office. If that will be the case, then take Kithure Kindiki to Haiti to be sworn in as the deputy president there, if it's going to work. We are not going to allow this. I think even General Miguna cannot go beyond the belt and succumb to such kind of a mock swearing in. He cannot even dare do that. I think that you have to give us a break, and I think that moving forward, we are not going to take this lying down, and we must ensure that the rule of law is adhered to from the top to the lower ladder.